Okay, welcome to the April discussion of the Seven Daughters of Dupree. We have the author here with us today, and I'm so excited for us to get the chance to talk all about it and ask some of those questions that we can only get from the source herself. Everybody, we're going to use the chat box to ask some of those questions that you may have after reading the book. Um, and then we're just going to keep it as chill and calm as we always do and just allow everything to just flow as naturally as possible. But I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to the author so she can introduce herself in case you all haven't had a chance to realize that she's on here with us. So, hi.
Hey, everybody. I'm Nikesha Elise Williams, the author of the novel The Seven Daughters of Dupree. It's my first traditionally published novel, so that makes it a debut, but I was indie for many years before. And I'm gonna just go ahead and jump into questions because like my bio is on the flap, and so y'all can really read all about me if you really want to know more. Um, so Tamji asked, I hope I'm pronouncing your name right. Was it difficult for me to keep the characters individual and did I ever confuse them while writing? No, I didn't confuse them while writing, and it wasn't hard to keep the characters individual because the way I wrote them individually. So like even even though the story developed in like two distinct sections, when I started writing, I first started with Tatiana and I brought her to a certain point, and then I brought in Nadia, and then I gave them a resolution, and that was the first draft because it was supposed to just be Tati's story. And then when I expanded it beyond just Tati, Nadia, and Gladys, and I actually had a perspective for Gladys, I then started, and by then I had all of the seven generations. I then started right where I left off. So then I wrote Gladys's story individually by itself, and then Ruby, and then Juby, and then Emma, and then the enslaved ancestor. Is this a spoiler-free conversation, or because I don't want to say the names that are not in the front if people
It's
haven't read the book, huh?
No, you can do spoilers. We're here for
Okay. All right. So yeah, I wrote Gladys and then Ruby and Juby and Emma and Sarah.
Mhm.
And yeah.
Okay, that's good to know because I did read in the acknowledgments that it did start with Tatiana, but I didn't think like, oh, maybe she wrote it in a way where she gave each individual a story. So it's kind of nice. It's almost like you went through the archival journey with Tatiana to get
In a way I did because like I wrote each of the women's stories separately. Like literally it's and starting with Gladys, from Gladys to Sarah, I wrote those five stories separately in like separate documents. And
Mhm.
so then I had to bring it all together. And so then I got open a brand new document and then braided literally every chapter person for person and brought them together like that. So yeah, it wasn't hard to keep track of them because they started off separate and then I
Mhm.
brought them together into one.
That is so impressive. How long did that take?
The first draft, which was just Tati and Nadia's story,
Mhm.
that took about 8 to 12 weeks,
Mhm.
between June and the end of August of 2021. And then by that point, when I finished the first draft, I think I sat on it for like six. I tried to get an agent just to help me through because I knew there was a character. Gladys was lingering, and I hadn't had her story worked out yet.
Yeah.
And I was thinking about it for about 6 months, and then by that time, in those 6 months, um, I expanded the storyline, knew what the characters were going to be, and so I think a lot. Hold
Mhm.
on one second. It's my daughter. Sorry about that.
No, you're okay.
But yeah, I thought about it for 6 months, and
Mhm.
then I started the expanded version, and that took me from May to the end of October of 2022. So like the whole time, like the drafting of it was about a year and a half or so, all told.
Okay. Um, and so since you had already mentioned it, this is one of my questions. Like I know you have some indie work out there. How does it differ from this traditionally published book? Like, do you typically write the same genre, or was this like a new genre that you stepped into?
This was a new genre for me. I generally write contemporary fiction, so like things happening present day
Hmm.
or in the not too distant past. And even starting this book, setting it in 1995, made it older than what contemporary fiction is considered to be.
Yeah.
And then once I expanded it to the seven generations and going all the way back to 1860, it was completely historical fiction. And so that was totally new terrain for me. I've never thought I would write a historical fiction story, although I don't think I put any limits on what I will write. It just is what the story was.
Yeah, so like the story just shaped itself. Like it became
Yeah, and
fiction.
like the characters came, the inspiration came, and then the story became what it was. I wasn't trying to control that, so I'm not someone that's like very rigid about I'm only going to write contemporary stories, or I'm only going to write historical stories, or I'm only going to write prose, or whatever the case may be. I
Mhm.
write, I write.
Yeah. And I appreciate you for allowing the story to like kind of evolve throughout the writing process. And I'm sure it was like its own unique set of challenges. But I'm curious as to what drove you to want to tell the story of a young Black girl growing up without a father. Because that was your seed, right? That was like the thought seed. So how did you get there?
For me, it was a way for me to try to explore my own complex relationship with my father.
Mhm.
But it what made it beautiful, I think, is the fact that I was immediately not Tati because she doesn't know Roman at all. And I did grow with my dad. So like I could give her some of my mannerisms, some of my characteristics. I could give her all of my nostalgia for Chicago and the place where I grew up. And I could give her my feelings and my emotions, but the where I have them geared and who I have them geared toward were not the same. So it
Mhm.
allowed me to really play and shape her life as her life and not mine. So like it's not auto fiction at all.
Yeah.
And really like let that breathe and then let her become like taking the seeds of me and letting her become her own person with what I was working with already.
Did you have a different conversation in mind between Tati and Roman? Was the
At the
outcome,
end,
yeah, was the outcome with them, was that always the way that you wanted it to turn out? Or did you have other avenues that you wanted it to go?
no, I always knew it was gonna blow up. Like I don't like I write with the ending in mind, and
Hmm.
so in that first draft that I had written, where she does, and the first draft is where again it was just Tati and Nadia's perspectives, and then it comes to the same kind of part three resolution that you have in the final copy, just without the other daughters
Yeah.
there. So you still had the Thanksgiving scene, you still had the club scene, and then you still had Tati coming home on New Year's Eve to talk to Nadia down in the basement. And so even in the first draft, that relationship was the same, like that confrontation was the same. I didn't see it any other way. Like she had put this man on a pedestal, she idolized him, she romanticized him,
Mhm.
all the feelings that she had that she could not express towards Nadia and Gladys, she put it in her mind that with Roman it would be different. And so we see how he acted with Nadia,
Hmm.
and so it couldn't be any different with her.
Yeah, see, I think the only thing that I wanted, the only thing that I wanted, if anybody else agrees, you could say it in the chat. What I was hoping for was for her to go to his family's house and blow all that up too. She needed to take it all the way there. I was hoping she was going to take it all the way there because he's like, my wife, my family, my this, my that. You know what? Nobody's having a family if it got anything to do with me. I was like, she needed to take it there. And so I brought
You
this
wanted
up.
her to take it to hell.
No, for real, because he was just so nasty to her. He was so nasty. And I was just like, no, she got to go lower. You already made this drive. Go ahead and just blow everything up. Because he didn't deserve peace. To me, I don't think he deserved any type of peace.
He doesn't deserve peace, and he doesn't deserve the grace that Nadia and Tati gave him. But I think as Nadia was trying to tell Tati all along, and I think what they both come to realize is like he ain't worth it. Like he's not even worth the trouble. He's not worth the gas money. Like he's not worth it.
Yeah, but his wife over there living in a lie. She's living, she's living in a lie. I was like, I felt bad, like, cause I don't know, like it's just like this girl, like. all she wanted was for him to like apologize or say something, and he couldn't even do that. And then had the audacity to just blow it in her face, like put it in her face, like I do already have a family, like, and you're not part of it. It's just like she's an innocent girl, and you're still nasty to her. Like I needed her to take it a little bit lower, just a little bit. It's just my own personal grievances.
I
Um,
see that.
let me see my other questions. I know you said you wrote all of the Dupree daughters separately, but was there any of them that was a little bit more difficult for you to write or to integrate into the storyline?
I think when I started the expansion and I started with Gladys, she was very difficult for me to find the voice
Mhm.
of not just her character, but her section. Because like in those earlier chapters, she's younger. She's like 18, 19 years old, right?
Yeah.
And so like her voice at 60, 70 something is very different from who she is and what her perspective is as a young adult.
Hmm.
Um, and so it took me a while to like get into it and get into her and get really nail it, the voice of not just her but in her section, but like what that landscape was like amongst the women in Land's End. And like Gladys's section was like there were like 7 chapters that I had written for her, and I don't think I like really nailed it until like chapter 4. So like that's pretty deep in to
Yeah.
like still be like tooling and tinkering with the voice. But the beauty of that was that once I did get it and it really locked in for me, all of the other women were there except for Sarah. Like Emma, Juby, and Ruby were all there. They're all in that scene when they're giving her a bath. They're all there when Eugene comes to say that, they're engaged and all these things, like they're all there. And so then them all being there made it easier for me to like distinguish their voices. Well, not I don't know if it made it easier, but it required me to distinguish their voices in Gladys's section. And then because they were so distinct and clear there, once I then began to write their individual sections, I knew who they were a little bit, and it allowed me to like deepen the exploration of who they were as women even more.
Okay. Yeah, I feel like Gladys was one of those characters. And I'm going based off of the conversation I had with my in-person book club yesterday, because they had questions too that they wanted me to share with you. But Gladys was one of those characters where I think like she doesn't really fall within the silent generation, but she is very like I was like, y'all, like, we don't know how much happened between this time of like Gladys being born and then like just her growing up after the assault. Like you don't know like how that truly altered her as a person and everything else that transpired because they was like, we just still don't understand why she did not like Nadia. Like they could not understand it. And I was just like, I think it's one of those things like generationally like in families, you will never fully understand. And so,
What?
oh, they was also curious as to what was it about Gladys that kind of lifted the curse.
So the thing about Gladys that lifted the curse is the way that I see it is that because of what she went through, because of her assault,
Hmm.
Sarah's giving her grace that you're still going to have a girl first. And if that's the only child that you have, that's the only child that you have. But because Gladys went on to try to have more children, she was able to have the 2 boys. And that's like Sarah giving her grace and showing her mercy because of all that she had went through. She had suffered her own atrocity. And so she didn't need to like be cursed by the womb as well. That's the way that I think of it.
I like that. I didn't think about it from that perspective at all, that it was Sarah giving her grace. I was just like, well, maybe it's just like my theory was like, I hope it's not because um like the what did I say? It was along the lines like we were like, I don't think it has anything to do with the fact that like Juby had been with the white man. I was like, I don't think that has anything to do with it. Like it's not about like whiteness being put back into the bloodline and that kind of like
No,
making it a little bit
it's not.
creepy. But
No, because Nadia is not mixed. Like Nadia is not the baby from the
yeah.
people who assaulted Glad. She's not Carl Darren or JB's baby. Like that's Eugene's daughter.
Mhm.
Um, But I mean, if we think about it, like Sarah started showing mercy with Ruby because Ruby got a girl on the first try.
Yeah.
So it's really only Emma and Juvie that had like the really horrific birthing experiences because Ruby got a girl on the first try. Gladys was assaulted and she lost that child that she may have been carrying when she came up on the train. And so she got Nadia fairly easily after that. And then she had Brian and Terry. And then Nadia didn't have any problems with Tati, and Tati didn't have any problems with her daughter, Sarah. But it's just you get the girl first.
And thank you for saying Sarah's name because I was like, is it Sarah? I was just like, I was like, I don't know, like let me not mess it up because I was like, I feel like the apostrophe is very important in her pronunciation. So thank you for that. But someone did mention in the chat they would love to hear more about the colorism you explored with Ruby and Juby.
I know you've all seen, may have seen like my daughter popping in here and you see she's very yellow and I am not, and neither is her father, and neither is my son, although they have the same dad. And so I was writing this novel around the time that she was born. And she was born, I'm thinking I'm gonna have like a little chocolate baby girl, and that's not what I got. So like she like that was kind of in my mind. And then when I expanded the story and I knew I was gonna do 7 generations, I wanted to do passing. I've never read a book where passing was unsuccessful and the characters have been forced to reckon with it on the page, like in the present moment, and it's not backstory.
Mhm.
Um, and so the only way to really do that is one, to put it on the woman, because it's always the woman who's at risk of having the dark child, because
Mhm.
that's who you're giving birth. And then, thinking about Nella Larson's passing or Britt Bennett's The Vanishing Half, we see so many successful stories. I want to know what it looks like to be to be unsuccessful. And so I wanted to play with that and then make that like Ruby and Juby's like turning point, because that's how I thought of the novel, of the secrets or the generational trauma, as everybody's calling it. I think I just thought of them as turning points in the women's lives.
Yeah.
And so, like, Juby's turning point is that she has a dark child, and then Ruby is basically marked from birth because she is so much darker than her mother. She is now shunned by her mother and
Mhm.
is kind of left to fend for herself. Like Emma's there, yes, and she is raised, but after a while, when she's big enough, they Juby don't fool with her too much.
Yeah. And I could not stand Juby. It made me so upset. And I think like my experience is like yours. Like my daughter, me and her dad are dark skinned and like we was like, she's just gonna be like the most chocolate thing in the world. And she's just like, we like, girl, when you get your color, checking her ears for her color. Um, so it
And which is what I said. Like you didn't have to check Ruby's ears or her nail beds. You knew
yeah,
exactly
you
what
could
color
see
she was
it.
gonna be.
And I was just like I don't like that scene. It was just that entire scene, like that birthing scene was powerful. There were a lot of powerful scenes within the book, like visually, like I could see what was happening in those moments, like honestly, like majority of the book. And so like when you were writing those scenes, did you like have to step away sometimes, especially with what happened to Sarah? Um,
No,
wrote through it.
when I get locked in on a story, I'm locked in, and I think it like, and I am a visual person, so generally for me when I'm writing, it's like I'm writing a movie in my head. Like I see the movie, and so then I'm writing what I see. Like I'm bringing you into the theater with me, the theater of my mind, so to speak. Um, when I got the first line of the prologue, they cut off her head because she ran, I knew where I was going with Sarah's story. I knew she was going to braid a map to freedom. I knew that's why she was going to be beheaded. I just knew. I knew everything. So I was always writing toward that moment.
Yeah.
And so, but when I actually sat down to write Sarah's story, I just remember, and then in that last chapter in particular, I just remember trying to get it done as quickly as possible, like just to get it out of me. Like I only wanted to do it once. I only wanted to see it once. I only wanted to write it one time. And honestly, I want to say that that section was probably the least edited of anything in the book. Like if I were to pull up the very first draft of Sarah's sections that I wrote, it's probably verbatim what is in the book. Like it was not touched and messed with at all for the most part. There may be a different word here or there, a few tweaks, but there was nothing like once it was done, it was done.
Yeah. And even just with that scene, I feel like them creating a hole in the ground for her belly. Like
That's
why
what they used to do.
they did. It was
Yeah,
that.
like
I had a question about that, and then I also had a question about the whips being called cats. Where did you first hear like that use of cats for whips?
so I'm a history nerd.
Hmm.
And I've read enslaved narratives and different, and then I read a lot of historical fiction. But there are different kinds of whips. So there's like a standard whip. There's like this one long rope that we hear about that cracks. But there's one that's called the cat o' nine tails. And so it has a handle, and then it's like nine different tails.
Uh-huh.
And sometimes they will put like little barbs on the end, like how they have barbed wire, they put little barbs on the end so that when they would whip an enslaved person, they're getting hit by nine different tails with the barbs that then scrape their skin. And that's why they're called cats. Like it's the cat of nine tails. Like that's the full um title of it.
Yeah.
And so I knew about those as different, you know, torture devices, discipline devices, whatever you want to call them. Um, and then, yeah, I'd read several slave narratives in different classes where, they talked about how they would punish a pregnant woman. They would dig out the earth to make room for her belly because, you're not supposed to be laying on your stomach. So they would make sure that the property was protected. The property was protected and
Yeah.
still beat them.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, because I was like, I have never like read cats like for the whips. Because at first, when they were on the ship, I was like, why do he randomly have this cat on this boat? Why is this cat here? And so then that's when we got to the scene, and then he was telling his sons to go get the cats, and he was like, we don't have like not the pet, go get my cats. And I was like, oh my goodness. Like I had to reread that multiple times, like because I was just in shock. I was like,
Like if you look Google cat of nine tails, you'll see the image of what it is and
yeah.
how brutal it
I'm Googling it right now. I don't want to see it, but I want to see it. Uh, but yeah, I was just like, wow. Like I didn't really like I haven't like explored like the depths of the punishments that they would like I've always known that they were egregious, like they were always brutal, like they it was just always bad. But like to this degree, like I love when a book teaches me something. And I think like you successfully did that. Like I feel like I learned a lot throughout their lives and just how each of the women, like even throughout the generations, we're getting a tidbit of the evolving like landscape of America during their time period. So it's just like not
is.
only are they going through all of this generational trauma or family secrets, like the world is also happening around them. And so like we
Exactly.
getting that into how these women are constantly being shaped and shifted. So
Hmm.
let me see. And I know you said that that scene was like the least edited. Were there any scenes that you had to take away from the story that you would have really preferred to have kept in there? Like that you probably had to go back and forth with your editor about?
There's one thing that they made me take out, and I think it's the reason why chapter one is so character heavy
Hmm.
because there was a chapter where Nadia and Gladys take Tati to the train station for her trip. And that's when we're first introduced to Toya and Desiree. And so it gave chapter, and so in chapter one was just about Tati's birthday. They have the argument in the basement, and then Nadia and Tati just go out for her birthday. Like Desiree and Toya weren't there.
Hmm.
And I was using that chapter of Gladys and Nadia taking Tati to the train to trigger Gladys's memory of her time on the train and how different their experiences were. Like, Tati's going to Union Station downtown Chicago, and it's exciting for her, and she's going on this class trip with her friends and all these things. Whereas, when Gladys came up, she came up in the segregation car on the old Central line on the South Side, which is I know Coco is from Chicago, and I think the old Central line stopped around like Columbus, um, before you get to Michigan Avenue, and where Union Station is now. It's a bop basically, and so like it's a very different experience. I'm sorry, your hair hurts, baby. Okay, lay the other way. Um, and so with just to have those different experiences juxtaposed, and my editors were like, you got to take that chapter out, it's not necessary. So then because I took that chapter out and it was a really a sticking point and I hated it, I had to take it out. I tried to like for in the first chapter, what I originally had, I like threw away the back half of it and then brought Toya and Desiree into the scene and made the tension between all of them that much higher. So like they're all there all at once. And Gladys is being messy, and then Toya comes in and she don't like Gladys, and then Desiree is there just happy to be with her best friend, and all of the feelings are there. So yeah, that's one chapter that I had to take out.
Would you ever like continue this story?
So no, not in the way that you all may want me to continue it. Some people have asked me about, well, what about the men who escaped with Sarah? What are their stories and how, what the who are the seven sons of Dupree? And I was like, it's not about this film. Um, there is a character who was briefly mentioned in Seven Daughters, who is a main character in the project I'm working on now.
Okay.
Um, and so Tati makes an appearance. So at least, yeah, Tati will make an appearance in the project that I'm working on. If that project ever sees the light of day, I don't know. I'm halfway through it. It's kicking my butt, and I'm gonna just leave it at that. But there is a very minor character who's mentioned by name in Seven Daughters, who's a main character who may be reason for Tati to show up.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it would be nice to see. It would be nice to see like the world of it expand and see what happens with some of those other characters. Um, let me see. So there's a lot of mention about hair. What
Mm-hmm.
is your personal experience with the concept of hair and how we engage with our hair as a community? Because what I shared with my book club was that like I didn't grow up in a household where like my family was like, don't let everybody play in your hair. But I know a lot of people who did grow up in a household like that. So what is your personal experience with that?
I've heard that. I don't know if I have any like hair hangups. I think my biggest hangup is just for me how active I am from a child and even now through an adult. Like I work out 3 times a week. Maintaining this twist out is a lot of work.
Mhm.
I'm over it. Like I have an appointment to get my hair sister locked in June because I'm over twisting my hair. I'm just over it. I have a whole lot of hair. So like I want to do different things. I'm very nervous about this appointment, but I'm like, I gotta do something. We'll see. But like both of my grandmothers were beauticians. My mother is one of four,
Mhm.
all girls. They all know how to, and they all learned from my grandmother how to do their hair and roll and set and all the things. I went to many a kitchen and basement beautician growing up in Chicago. We used to have standing appointments. My mother used to have a standing appointment with this lady named Rhonda at a salon for the longest time. So like I've always been around beauty culture and Black beauty culture, hair culture, and then having to learn my hair going from relaxers to naturals to braids more than once in my lifetime. So it's just part of who I am, and I put that in the book. Like the book had a different working title when I first started working on it, and so and that title informed the fact that Nadia was a hairdresser. And then when I expanded the novel to the 7 generations, my first and knowing what Sarah's ending was going to be, my very first question was, well, how would Sarah, knowing what happened to her, how
Yeah.
would she feel about Nadia being a hairdresser, knowing that was technically her demise?
Hmm. Yeah. So two things. I'm gonna come back to the working title of the book. Second thing, Sister Locks will be a really great choice because I work out a lot too, and I locked my hair. I'm about to hit my 1 year this week, and like it was the best decision because I had been natural my whole life. So I appreciated you allowing us to like have an example. And I'm sure there are others out in the literary world, but just something newer out in the literary world that explores like how sacred it is to have like beauty shops for black women and just like what it means to really have a relationship with a hairstylist, like somebody that you trust. to be in your hair. So I did really like having that setting, and even just like knowing that it was a generational thing. Like it truly is a gift. Even just Sarah being able to, like when you said in the book that Sarah did a design in her head that would normally take hours, she did it in minutes. And I was like, that's true talent. Like that's just like, that's not something that you can just teach any old body. Like she really did that like from memory. And I love the way that you showcase like these black women, like even though like hell is all around them, like they really making heaven, and they have something great like within themselves, within their bloodline. Like if you like curse aside, like these are women, like very like don't want to use strong women because it's just like, but like these are women that are capable of a lot outside of the curse. So I truly appreciated that, like just knowing like black women in their hair and just how it's always like being policed. It was just like I love that you took that path to explore like, why it is the way that it is.
And I feel like a lot of our history is bound up in our hair. And so I wanted to show that and keep that metaphor running through the generations. So like colorism, you can talk about colorism through hair texture. You
Yeah.
can talk about all of the tensions and the traumas through the hair texture. Like you think about beauticians, they can usually determine whether or not you're stressed by like, is your hair falling out? Is it thinning? So like all of that is there. And I wanted to explore that.
Yeah, and it's like, how they associate people with trees, and it's just like they're a part of our roots. Like it will tell a story. Your hair will tell a story.
Yeah.
So, and just like the birds told a story. Girl, this book was magnificent. I'm gonna just go ahead and say I really, really enjoyed the book. Like I just love that it was layered. And I know somebody else mentioned it as well. Like I appreciate a story that allows me to connect the dots on my own. Like they mentioned that like a lot of things like there was insinuation there. Like you had to truly like read the text in order to understand like everything can't be black and white. Everything isn't just always going to be given to you on a silver platter. Like you're going to have to do some thinking and connect some dots the same way with Tati, and just like you're not going to have Sarah's full story. You're not going to have every little detail, but like you're going to have like some of those big things and other things you're going to have to fill in. So I appreciate when a story does that, because it's just like I know that I'm getting as much as that's truly possible, because for a lot of black families you can't even trace your lineage back that far. Like
Mm-hmm.
you don't have the name. And so that was one thing that in-person book club was kind of curious about, is like, do you know Sarah's real name?
Do I know Sarah's real name?
Yeah.
I do.
Can you tell us, or is it a secret?
No. I do know her real name, and no, I'm not going to share it.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair. It's your work. It's your work. But we was just like, yeah, what is her real name? Like we will never know. Um, and I think again, that's just like to the true nature of what it means to be a Black American. Like there's a lot of history that we just will never know about our families because it's not easy to find, or it doesn't exist. Let's see what else. I don't want to miss nobody's. This is the story you have.
Coco had a question about Black Christianity. I mean, and it's really just what you said, that like we tend to be religious, but we put our spin on certain things.
Mhm.
That's really all it is. That I do believe in Jesus. I do attend church. I do read my Bible. I do claim to be Christian, and I would say that I am Christian. But I have friends who practice different religions and practice different traditions. Specifically, an African traditional religion, they practice Ifa, and I also see how for Black Americans, a lot of the way that we practice Christianity, even if we don't recognize it, is really flexible.
Mhm.
Like some of the things that we do, we call them superstitions, are really practices picked up from hoodoo.
Yeah.
Like the way that we tend to save obituaries or hang pictures in in like the walls of our homes or the gallery spaces, and a lot of the people on the walls and on those photos are no longer living. We'll
Yeah.
have different places set with candles and tablecloths and doilies and water and flowers, and we won't call it an altar, but that's what it is. And
Mhm.
so I recognize the flexibility in the way that we practice Christianity, and we may not call the area where we have all the pictures on the wall a shrine, but
Mhm.
that's what it is. We may not say that, when we're doing different things in the earth, or we're planting gardens or doing different things, that we are working with roots, but that's what we're doing. We may not say that, where we I had a friend talk about, like, Easter just passed, and like she did a thing with a group of women from church where they wrote down what they wanted broken in their lives and they buried it. And I'm like, that is a ritual. It's also a divination,
Yeah.
right? So we may not call it those things that are associated with witchcraft and are considered to be demonic
Mhm.
by, like, especially like in like a CCM or a non-denominational church, but that's the way we practice, and it's rooted in something, and I don't think it is witchcraft, and I don't think that it's demonic, and I think that there is room for the expansiveness of God, first of all, and there's room for the expansiveness of how we worship, and so that's what I'm tapping into there.
Yeah, I love that you touched on that because it's just like there's a point in the book where it was like, again, I'm telling you, Sarah's scene, it really stuck with me. I'm never gonna forget it. But just like, although like her head was cut off, you can't cut off like her, you can't cut off who she is or what she
Mm-hmm.
truly is at her core. Like regardless of her head from body all you want to, like she's still gonna want that freedom.
She still was in control of her thoughts, and she's had
Yeah.
a, autonomy over her own transition at the very end. Yeah.
And so like even just like that spiritual connection with self and being able to know like okay like although I've been taken away from my homeland like that still carries on from generation to generation all
Yeah.
like all of the Dupree daughters were striving for some type of freedom like they wanted some type of liberation from something and I think like that like tying it all back in like just like with the spirituality and it just being passed on because like it comes from previous practices like I don't agree with like witchcraft and like just like it's just bad like no people are practicing their spirituality the way that they know best for themselves and what it means to them uh, and I think like yeah like a lot of people like they do a lot of practices and they don't realize like it all comes from the same desire to be connected with self. So I did
Mm-hmm.
like that. And then I wanted to come back to the working title that you had for the book because someone from book club in person wanted to know if you had a different title for the book in mind, or did the publisher choose this one?
No, I chose this title, but the title that I had before was called Hot Combs on a Saturday Night.
How comes on a Saturday night? I like that.
Me too.
Yeah, I
I
do
was so sad
like
to change it.
that. But I guess like with it transitioning into like since it's
When it moved into
exclusively
like being a generational
yeah.
epic, my agent was the one who was like, "We need a different title." And because of the story being so expansive, I came up with the Seven Daughters of Dupree. But I did really like my original title. I loved it so much.
Well, if you use that title for a short story collection of just like conversations they have in the beauty salon, and
Somebody else said that to me too. They
your
was like, that
title,
would be like a good short story or anthology.
yeah,
So
yeah,
maybe
I'm
we'll
here for
see.
it. I'm here for it. In case your mind is like, I wonder what Tati and Nadia got going on right now. Yeah.
Okay.
Um, I don't want to take up too much more of your evening because I still want to give them time to for us to discuss without you on here, but I want to give them if anyone has any other questions for Nikesha while she's here, go ahead and drop them in the chat now. Um, if not, let me see if I got one more up my sleeve before I let you go. Coco said, "Thank you for writing this."
I'm not able to type fast enough.
You can say it out loud if you want to.
Okay, I wasn't sure if that was
Yeah.
like
No,
okay.
no. Anybody can
Okay.
unmute yourself. I can mute
Okay,
myself at
okay.
any time. I'm okay
Okay.
with it.
Well, hello, Miss Author. It's me again. I promise you I'm not stalking you. I just love the book club and I love that they are like getting you on the line. I'm like, yes, she's gonna be on this one, so I'm gonna come to this one. So
On your virtual
um
tour.
yes, yes. I'm on my virtual tour. That's how much I love this book. I cannot stop talking about it. I can't stop hearing about it. My question that was different from yesterday is if there was a daughter that whose story you would expand on, who would it have been? Because I have a favorite daughter that I just wanted to hear more about. So I was curious.
Ooh, I don't know. And I don't know if I would expand on any of them
Okay.
because you've come to a few of these, so I think you've heard me say like it was never my intention to write a book
Mm-hmm.
about 7 generations of women. Like
Mm-hmm.
that was not what I thought was going to be in me.
Mm-hmm.
So, and when I was writing the expanded version where I was writing each character, I was focused on just enough, like
Mm-hmm.
getting a little bit before the turning point, a little bit after, just enough to know who they were. So I don't know if there's anyone I would like to know more about. Like maybe Tati and Joshua. Like what does their relationship look like on the
Mm-hmm.
farm with the baby? Maybe that. But yeah, I think they're done.
Yeah,
Like
you gave us funny.
they are done for me.
You gave us funny. I was just using my imagination, like what else she was up to? Because her and Samson were fun to read. So I was just curious. She was my favorite
Ruby was
daughter.
my favorite. Ruby was my
I
absolute
love
favorite.
Ruby. She was my favorite.
Ruby and
Yeah.
Samson had a time, okay? They had 4 weeks on the Black Beach and they had a time. All right.
It's giving drunken love
It
video. That's what I was
was.
thinking. I thought it's drunken love.
And I
Same
love
here.
that. I love that she was able to have that, especially as a character who did
Yes.
not receive love, like even from outside. Like even the community felt a little bit of
Yes.
like
And
everybody
even
was
when
side-eyeing her.
Yeah, even when
Everybody.
Logan said she just always looked sad and she was alone. It's because
Hmm.
you're alone in this world, you're alone with your family. So Samson was kind of like her. I'm letting my hair down. I got somebody. We about to have a blast. So yeah, I love
Exactly. And
Ruby.
nobody was paying attention to her anyway. So she
Yep,
was like, I'm out.
yep.
I see Jada's question. Not necessarily a movie. I'd rather it be like a mini series, like 8 episodes, one episode per daughter, and then an epilogue to give you a nice little wrap up in the end. Is there another work of mine that I would like to be made into a movie? Um, my very first self-published novel, For Women, I did write a screenplay for it, and it has had a couple shopping agreements with producers and a production company, but nothing's ever come of it. I know this one has been sent out by my film agents. I haven't checked in to see what's happened with it, but there are talks, and we'll see.
Well, I'm keeping my fingers crossed because I will definitely be watching.
My career as a narrative strategist. I work for a social justice nonprofit called Narrative Initiative. So we work with small grassroots organizations, so like those who are really on the front lines, to help them with their narrative strategy. Basically, what that means is like most social justice groups are trying to change a policy or a law, but before you can change a policy or a law, you have to change the conversation around it. So if
Mhm.
you think about all the different groups that make up the LGBTQIA movement, and how long they work to change to get not just marriage equality, but true civil rights recognized for gay relationships, so that they would have the access to healthcare and spousal privileges and all those different things that come with cishet relationships. Before, when they were talking about gay rights as a civil rights issue, it didn't get a lot of traction in the early 60s, 70s, and 80s. But in the late 90s, early 2000s, we saw the conversation around gay civil rights for the LGBT community change into love is love, marriage equality. That
Mhm.
is a narrative strategy. That is a narrative shift. You have changed the conversation around an issue in order to push the issue forward and to get the policy to change to what you want it to be. So, like, we work with organizations that want to see the child protective services become obsolete. Now, most of us can't imagine a world without DCFS,
Mhm.
but what if you could? And what does that look like? And what kind of conversation do you have to have around that to make CPS and DCFS and DCF and all these different agencies obsolete? That's the work that I do. So it's working with words, it's bending language, it's being very precise with language, and strategic about what it is that you say, what it is that you repeat or don't repeat, in order to make sure that the last thing somebody is left with when they talk to you about a certain issue is what you want them to take away from it and not what they already know.
Thank you. When you said that yesterday, I said, I don't know what that is as a career. So I'll ask.
No, that is fascinating. You're a fascinating woman. Like I can't I like so do you think for us that have not read your indie work, do you think we should start with Four Women?
I am hesitant. I am not ashamed of any of my indie books at
Mhm.
all. Um, but I hope if you do start with Four Women, you see the growth. Um, I'm sure you can see where I was still developing my style and my voice. I think you also see some of the same things that I'm known for, being very graphic and stuff like that.
Mhm.
Um, and trying to tie a story together. It Four Women was multi POV. It's set over a couple of months and not several years. But I think you'll see the same things that maybe I think I will become to be known for.
Mhm.
Um, and so I have no problem with people starting with Four Women. Four Women ends on a cliffhanger, so please buy the sequel and do not DM me when you finish it, because there is a sequel that goes with it. Of my so I and without Four Women, I wouldn't be here because it
Yeah.
had to start somewhere. So I hope you see the growth. I don't mind you starting with Four Women. Of my indie works, I do think that Beyond Bourbon Street, which was the last one, was the best.
Mhm.
But I still love Four Women Down. So yeah.
Okay. Well, I would love to see just how you evolve. Like I love seeing the evolution of a writer. So, like it's not like I'm gonna go into it like this is her sophomore traditionally published book. Like it should be written. People like that, I'd just be like, girl, why you reading? But go off. But yeah, no, I'm going to explore some of your other work because I really am like I am a fan. Like I can't wait for whatever you put out next. Just because like I do love your writing and I hope that like the things that I pick up from reading for women will give me more insight into your voice as a writer and what I can look for in other bodies of work.
I think what you'll see in all of my books is, especially for my career in news, is that
Hmm.
for me it always starts with something that was happening in the world in the news that I was like obsessed with at the time.
Yeah,
And that I'm always centering Black women. And yeah, Dominique, I hope you enjoy Beyond Bourbon Street. And Coco, I'm glad that you like the family tree. Yes, that I know it came in clutch.
I did love that too. Um, well, if no one else has any other questions, I just want to say thank you so much for your time and indulging in conversation with my book club today. I'm pretty sure everyone else appreciated your time too. It really did mean a lot to have you join us and just to see a Black woman thrive within the literary landscape because I know that it's not always easy to get into traditionally
It is not.
published stuff. So I'm happy for you, rooting for you, and seriously, congrats on your debut into the traditional world because we're here for you and we are rooting for you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you for reading. Good to see you again, Camden. I'm gonna be looking for you now.
Okay.
And I'll talk.
Thank
Thank you for
you.
inviting me. Thank you, everyone, for reading, for getting the book, for having brunch with the book. That was epic. It looked like a good time yesterday.
Thank
And I hope y'all have a good conversation tonight. Bye.
you. Bye. Okay. Hi, everybody. Okay, so we're gonna just keep the conversation going and share any other thoughts you had about the book. I know I already said who my favorite character was, which was definitely Ruby. And I think it was just like my own personal experience growing up and just feeling like this outlier because as I told my book club yesterday, I come from a long line of light-skinned women and I was just like, how the hell am I part of this family? And my mom was a teen mom and I swear up, down, left, and right, I was like, I was adopted. How did I get here? Because my older sister's light-skinned and then it was my younger brother. I have two younger brothers who are both light-skinned. And then my youngest sister finally came along 8 years later. I done lived life being the only dark skin, and then she's dark skin. I was like, whoa, well, that explains everything. I'm not the only one. Like, it does make a little bit of sense. But yeah, like Ruby was a very relatable character, and like just seeing her like as you said, Kim, like it's just like she just went off and she was just living life, and it's like nobody was really worried about her, and like she could just experience and explore because no one's like on her back, and I think that's a little bit of freedom within itself of not having an overbearing parent. Granted, I do believe that she deserved to have a mother who undoubtedly loved her, but not having an overbearing parent is also a sense of freedom as well. So. Yeah, Tangi also like Ruby, and my least fave, it was Juby. I'm telling you, if I seen Juby out, she needed to be, that little walk of shame she had was not enough for me. Somebody needed to cuss her out real good. She needed to be cussed out real, real good.
It's like I imagine Juby as a young version of, you remember the lady that played, this is so disrespectful because I cannot remember her name, but I don't remember anybody's name from A Thin Line Between Love and Hate, Brandy. I just imagine Juby as
Yeah.
the lady that, what, she was on A Family That Prays, um just evil and
It's
like
Lynn Whitfield.
Yes, Lynn Whitfield. No, nose in the air, trying to get what she want, manipulating situations. I said, "Oh, if this ain't Darnell and Brandy in my mind,
That's it. She said, "Oh, it's not gonna be hard for him to pretend like he lost a wife and a baby because he already lost one before." Hold on, now he's the curse. That was one thing I did not like. I was like, I don't like that all of the women are being blamed for everything that's wrong. And like, there are shitty men in this book. A lot of shitty men.
that whole conversation in the beauty parlor, I still call it beauty parlor. That's how I knew I grew up in the beauty parlor because that's what my mama called it. But I was like, if this ain't the truth, you're a child listening to the adults. And I just love, again, her writing when she was like, when you're talking about men, they might be niggas if they make you real mad or trifling men. And I was like, it's a distinction. There is a ladder when you're talking about these different men. And so I started thinking, I was like Logan, Eugene. I'm just like, which one they falling into? Roman. Like it was fun to read.
There are a few characters, like, it's not too many characters I ever want to square up with, but Roman for sure. Juby's right there with him. Like, they really need to be dealt with.
And Gladys, that's somebody mama I would have cussed out if I was Toya. I'm sorry, your mother is getting cursed out, laid
Listen,
out.
Nadia should have cussed her out in that church. Cause why are you telling the whole congregation my business? And then to add in, and he's a married man. Do
I
you
said
not do you
that was a
not know
Tyler
I'm your
Perry scene.
child? I'm your child. I'm a
Mm-hmm.
reflection of you. So you trying to out me and put me on blast. You really
Mm-hmm.
putting yourself on blast too.
It was terrible.
Yeah,
I said Tyler Perry
Gladys
wrote
was
that.
bad.
Tyler Perry wrote that scene right there. I saw it in my head. I said, this is a mess. Oh my God.
I think the only thing that softened me up to Gladys was the rape. I was like, that is the only reason. But I was just like, it's very ironic that her name was Jubilee, and then we got Gladys, and they the two most evil, miserable people in the book. I said
One,
that's so ironic that that is their name.
yeah.
It
And
don't make
one
sense.
thing, I'm sorry,
No,
my
you're
thing
fine.
is lagging. I was gonna say too, like you told the author how she led us to the story. We had to do some of it. It was like a mystery because I literally flipped back. I said, JB, wait a minute, I seen that name before. He when
Uh-huh.
Gladys came to the doorstep and was like, go in the house, clean yourself off. I was, 50 pages in, I'm like, why is it such a what's going on? And then we get to the field and JB and Carl, I said,
Yeah.
oh my God. Like, it was a lot of wow, wow, wow written all in that book. Exclamation marks.
Hmm.
I appreciate an author who walks you through it. You are not going to spoon feed and explicitly say what's happening. It makes the reading so much fun. I was like, oh my God, this is what's going on.
And that's like a conversation going on right now a little bit in the book community where a lot of contemporary authors are like just telling you everything just flat out. Like it's like you're not even creating the story for me to be able to enjoy it. You're creating it for me to simply digest it. And like no, I want to be able to use my little brain to create and piece things together. That's why I'm like when she said that she wrote each individual story for each of the women by itself, I was like, that makes a lot of sense because that's the only way you can really gather all of those details and those unique like personalities without really blurring it. and forgetting who's who. So
In
I,
the poetry, can we
mhm,
so the poetry between the lines, like the story to story, like, oh, you a lie don't last long, and then next chapter, this lie ain't last long. I was like, okay, it's like I'm letting you do it. But then even the actual poetry itself, that's why I said I'm going to read whatever this woman writes, because I
mhm.
have not annotated a poem since high school. That was like 15 years ago at this point. But line by line, it was one towards the end. It's describing different Dupree women, and I was like, oh
Are you
my
talking about the
God.
one that Tati wrote to her daughter?
Yes, that one. And it's another one. Yeah, I think it's that one. She's like the one who crowned, the one who did this. And I was like, you're literally giving an homage to these different Dupree women at the end of this story, or the epilogue of it. That is like a love letter to your lineage. I
Yeah.
love that. I was like, that's an epilogue. That's how you do an epilogue. Write it up beautifully, succinctly, but allow the reader to pull apart, who does this relate to, if you're paying attention to what she's actually writing and not just absorbing the information. You have to really be analytical about that. I loved it.
Oh, for real.
Mm.
Because it was just so much. Because I was the same way. I was underlining everything. I,
Something else I did, I read it and I underlined it in like pink lighter. And then when I was listening back to it, I was highlighting in orange because it was things that was standing out to me when I heard it in my ears as opposed to me reading it in my eyes. I got really into this book. Like, this is it.
it has been a while since I've read something where I was just like, yeah, I'm
Mhm.
I'm here with it.
And I just finished Ken, but that word trifling was in Ken.
Mm-hmm.
But and I was like, we talking about trifling. Both of those books felt like I was sitting at my grandma table or on the porch listening to grown folks conversation, and I wasn't supposed to be hearing what I was hearing. That's what this book
Yeah.
felt like to me.
And you know what I like though, like with Ken, because we read Ken last month for book club, and
Mm-hmm.
then coming into this, and they're both like exploring mother-daughter
Mm-hmm.
relationships. And I like that it is restoring the humanity of what it means to be a mother. Because it's
Yes.
like everybody just sees like mothers as these figures that just they don't feel anything, they just serve, like they just serve their family,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
it's like
Mm-hmm.
you forget the person that's inside of the role of being a mother.
Yes.
I think like with this one we got to see how the daughters became mothers, like that
Mm-hmm.
transition from daughter to mother, and then we get the transition of uh like my daughter is now a woman. So now I'm interacting with my daughter woman to woman rather than
Yes.
woman to child. And so,
Yes.
like I really do appreciate that novels are showcasing what it means to have to exist within the
Mm-hmm.
title of being a mom.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Mm-hmm.
they're human. They're human.
Yes.
And I think like
Yes.
it's easy to read the book and be like, oh my goodness, like I can't stand these mamas, but it's like they human. At the
Yeah.
end of the day, you do have to like extend some type of empathy and practice some type of compassion once you get to know each of the Dupree women and the trauma that they've experienced even
Mm-hmm.
outside of the curse, and just like what it means to be a Black woman in all these different periods of time. So
Yes,
it's enjoying it
yes,
and like the
yes.
complexity of it. I know like some people in person was like that it was very confusing. Like it would get confusing and chaotic sometime, and it's like, have you been in a Black family before? Confusing and chaotic. Confusing
This was
and
this
chaotic.
is probably the most clear story of Black womanhood in one family, because I, like you said, you being born to a teen mom. My mom had me at 17, so
Uh-huh.
it's like a lot, and I'm her eldest. So being the first daughter, the things that are going unsaid, you feel like you Scooby Doo trying to put it
Yeah.
together. Like, well, wait a minute, you had me at 17. Your mama died at 15. So what happened in them 2 years? And you moved from like I. These books give me a reason as a grown woman now at 33, me and my mama are
Cry.
now like sisters. And it's like, I'm using this as a tool to kind of get some more information. Like, so mom,
Mhm.
wait, you was, I was 15 and at my age. So I'm kind of like using the books
Yeah.
as a platform. And she's receptive to it more so than when I was 17. I guess like in the book. There are things you just don't want your child to know at certain times. It's like because it's heavy for you to even shoulder and understand what it meant to be a 17-year-old mom grieving her own mama's death. Like it's a lot, but like you said, I appreciate the authors who make it so humane and also make it truly an epic of a story and not a tutorial of a story. Don't tell it,
Yeah.
don't spell it out. Like make me work for it a little bit.
Yeah. Gotta
Mm-hmm.
dig a little bit. And I love that too, like just being able to like say, you know what, like let me investigate my own stuff. Like I've always been one to just because I have 5 siblings, so we'd be on my mama's neck all the time in her business. And it's just like it's a difference between like being like part of the older three and then my younger siblings and just how they interact with my mom and like their experience with my mom is just very different because it's like no, that is my big sister. Because girl, what are you talking? That is my big sister.
Yes.
My little
Yes.
sister is always like, mommy did this, mommy did that. Girl, you talking about Tammy? What she do? Like
Yes.
it's very
Yes.
much like I'm like, girl,
Yeah.
like it's just like reading books like this, it makes you like say, you know what? I love when it's just like I'm not alone. It's not a universal experience, but
Yeah.
like mother-daughter dynamics are universal in their own
Mm-hmm.
unique way because everyone comes from a woman.
Mm-hmm.
You come
Mm-hmm.
from some woman.
Mm-hmm.
That's how you get here. So
Whether you're Annie or Tati, I'm going back to the books and grown women as well. That was another book that made me like, I got to get the family lore. I need to understand
mhm.
how did we get here. And so to me, that's why I'm like, books are so important. Whatever which way you immerse in them, it plants that seed of I need to ask more questions, whether of myself or the people around me. I just love it.
Yes. And that made me think because I asked the in-person book club this yesterday if you all had like a family Bible. Because when they were describing the family Bible in this book,
Mm-hmm.
it looked exactly like the one that I had in my home growing up. And I was like, hold on, everybody has this
Mm-hmm.
Bible. But we had a white Bible with like the gold pages around the outside, and we kept it inside of like a wooden box. And I was like, I still need to ask my once I get off here, I'm gonna call my mama to figure out what happened with it once her and my daddy got a divorce. Because I'm just like, where did the Bible go? Because we used to
Mm-hmm.
play with it all the time, not knowing like we weren't really like a church going family. We did not go to church, but it's just like we just had this Bible. We ain't know why we got a Bible. It's just like it's here.
Black family decor. It's
Yeah.
you know, I mean, yeah, yeah. I did
We had to
not,
see two,
I,
two
I
kids
did
from the
not,
same Bible. For
yeah.
real. Like it's
But
just
I will say this, like my dad just had a 55th surprise birthday party for my stepmom. And he's like, Kim, I know you the one to have the pictures. Like I've become the family historian. Like I love history. I love, I just think that's so
archives are so
important.
fun.
Yes,
Archives are so fun.
so when she mentioned about obituaries, I'm like, I found out who my grandmother's was by her obituary. And then I looked up that name, looked up the census, and was able to figure out where they lived in Virginia. And I was just like, see, you need to document it, whether it's a
You gotta write
Bible,
everything
you have to
down.
write it down. I was like, I journal so much because maybe my great granddaughter or my great grandniece, whoever, are gonna be like, I want to know what she was doing in 2026. Like,
No,
what was she up to?
real. That's why I've started taking journaling more seriously. Like I've even started to do timestamps. And I think it's more so for my own reflection when I go back
Mm-hmm.
and look at it because I'm like, why you keep having mood swings at 10:30 in the morning? Come on, let's
Right,
get to it. Let's
right.
circle back. But it's just like
Yeah.
I know one day somebody's gonna come across my journals. And
Or
that's just
even if it's your own self.
yeah.
Don't you, I've been journaling consistently for the last 5 years, 6 years. It was the greatest gift I could have to myself because some days when I'm not inspired to just rant about whatever's on my mind, I
Mhm.
literally flip to that day or around that time from years ago.
Yeah.
And it's the most mind blowing thing ever. I'm like, wow. Like,
No.
and there's one journal called One Line a Day. It goes across 5 years. You
Uh-huh.
literally write one sentence that day. So I started in 2024. It is 2026. And I'm like,
And
okay,
you've done
April
it every day.
27th, because it's
I
just like
have it
give
on I
yourself
have it on my
one,
nightstand.
get
I
it,
have it on my
use
nightstand
it,
and I don't
use
do it.
it, use it. I'm like, if you can send a text message every day, you can write one thing to yourself every day. Like you can write. It's a part of
Okay,
your
I'm gonna start it
personal
back up.
archive.
I'm gonna start it
Yes,
back up.
please, for yourself, for yourself. Like, yeah, but the storytelling. the stories we tell ourselves, like who
Mhm.
can learn from it. And I'm like, one day I hope that I have a daughter, and whatever I was going through at 28, I hope that I have a point of reference. Like, what was I doing at 28? Let me flip back to these. What's
Yeah,
going on? So yeah.
but yeah. Does anyone else have anything about the book they want to talk about in the chat or just out loud?
Uh,
Or if
I
you
was
want me to stop recording so you can talk, I can do that too.
It doesn't matter if you record or not. But I was just gonna say something. So I have been working towards like paired reading this year, like on fiction and nonfiction.
Yeah.
So I read The Seven Daughters of Dupree. I read Ken last month, but I did not get on here, but I read it. And then also I read The Water Bears by Sasha Bonet. So this is the book right here. It's a memoir of daughters and mothers.
Uh-huh.
And this is and my she writes it very poetically. Like it talks, maybe it's not like it is generational. It's like maybe three or four generations. But the contrast and comparisons of just how like mother daughters, it's not like I guess being a daughter, the oldest daughter, it used to always feel like a singular thing. Like it was just me. I was like, my mom is just crazy. Like nobody else deals with this. But I guess it's just the expansion of understanding that somebody's always dealing with something with their mom, good or bad. It's always something. And I guess just seeing the nonfiction side of it, essentially, her grandmother, she's out there in the streets in Houston in Third Ward. She up and leave a man after she gets pregnant. I think she has like 11 kids, 9 kids, something like that, a lot.
Yeah.
And then it talks about like how she was just very free and open, and then her mom was more so like not as open and a lot more reserved. And it's kind of reminded me of Gladys and a little like it was just a lot of comparison and contrasting. So I definitely appreciated like reading a nonfiction that still reflected a lot of what was in the book, but it just gave me a different perspective to kind of, I don't want to say make it more real because this does seem real, but it's just like there's always a mother daughter dynamic that kind of echoes another, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Um,
Thank you. Thank you for that rec too. This is my first time seeing it.
so it's not as prevalent on social media,
Hmm.
but I've been trying to like scour to find where like things that are like the same and different. And I've seen this book for a while and I was like, it's
Yeah.
about water. I love books when it has something to do with water and Black women. So I was like, let me. So yeah, so and then I seen somebody recommend it, and I already had it because I had just bought it. I was like, I'm gonna buy it. One day I'm gonna read it.
Yeah.
And I was like, but it's really good. Like it talks about a lot of like just like men being there, men not being there.
Hmm.
Um, Most of the daughters don't know their fathers. They don't even know who their father is until they become like mothers themselves. So I mean, I love the book. Like it took me a little bit to get through because it's very, I don't know, it's very deep on some levels, but I would recommend it.
Okay. It sounds heavy, especially knowing that like although it's similar themes as the
Mhm.
daughters, like this is someone's real
Yes,
life.
yes,
Like
yes, yes,
it
yes.
really puts it like, okay, this is close, this is true. Um, but yeah, I'm gonna have to look into that one.
But that's all I had. Just that I read another book to kind of amplify what I read in The Seven Daughters to kind of just get a different perspective, but
Yeah.
to just have something to kind of, I guess, create my own type of like thought processes and analytics of things and how like I view my life and understanding how their lives are.
That also reminds me of Firstborn Girls by Bernice McFadden.
I
Have
have
you
that
read
book.
that?
I bought it. I haven't
Okay.
read it yet, but
Okay.
I bought it. I was like, because I read Sugar. I read Sugar last month too. And I love Sugar by Bernice McFadden. And I have This Bitter Earth, but the Firstborn Daughters, I was like, I really want to read this, so I will get to it
It
very.
was good. It was good. I closed Sugar after like 12 pages because I had just finished reading The Darkest Child. And I was like,
Okay.
I can't take this back to
Yeah,
back. I
it
I
is
said, I
heavy.
can't do
It's
this.
heavy. But I love Sugar. Like
Yeah.
it doesn't. there is a twist at the end. I will say that. So if you do get to the end,
Hmm.
the beginning, like the beginning first pages will make everything will make sense at the very end.
Okay. I'll stick with it. Maybe after a lighter read. I said,
Okay,
oh,
but yes, yes,
my heart.
yes.
I can't
But
do this.
yes, it took me a while to read that, but I loved, like I read it, but I love Sugar as well. It was
I've
very,
heard good things.
she's, and that's how I was like, I'm gonna read this Bitter Earth, but not yet, because Sugar was a lot. I was like, but yes, so I will read Firstborn Daughters as well.
The fun in reading, I feel like, is creating this ecosystem of
Yes,
related books. Cause I'm
Uh-huh.
like, ooh, because you said paired reading, and I thought you were gonna say something else, but I'm definitely gonna steal that idea of like
Mhm.
fiction and nonfiction.
Yeah.
And I had read Tenderheaded, a memoir by Michaela Angela Davis, and then
Mhm.
right after read If I Ruled the World by Amy
Mhm.
Barnett Dubois. And it was,
Is that
like
good?
you said, it's okay.
Okay.
But it was fun for to read the memoir about being in the journalism industry,
Mhm.
magazine industry, editorial, and then to read the fiction rendition of it and how these threads. I'm like, these authors may not always create sequels, and that is okay, or even prequels, but they
Mhm.
operate. They were written within an ecosystem of other books, and I just
Yeah.
love the creativity of seeing how authors they can take this same subject matter and then just make their own story. It makes it so much fun.
Because she was saying that this book, I guess she started this book in 2021. And I don't know when this book, like when she wrote this book, but this book, The Water Bears came out in last year. So I'm guessing it maybe not like the specific time, so they weren't like friends or anything, but it's just so interesting to see how the conversations are still very like relatable. And I think that was something I seen in both of
Mm-hmm.
these books. It was like I can't relate to everything, but as a Black woman, as a Black daughter, some of
Mm-hmm.
it was very relatable.
Mm-hmm. I
So
wonder, does publishing have anything to do with that? Like deciding when books will be published based on when other things that are
Mhm.
in that similar neighborhood of topics. Because, like we said, Ken talked about Mothers that
Mhm.
was released, and I know Seven Daughters was released before that. So it's like
Mhm.
if it does well, the same audience are probably going to be looking for something similar. The business of it
Mhm.
is what I'm curious about.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know how they pick and choose.
This was so good, y'all. I'm gonna hop off because, like I said, I'm at this conference. These people didn't pay me to be here to learn, and I'm like, I'm on book club. I need to tune into this. So I was like, let me go socialize at the reception.
Well, thank you for hopping on. It really meant a lot to have you engage with the author with us too. So thank you for joining.
No, thank you for hosting this. I said, this is like shamelessly. I'm here again. Hey, girl. Yep. I said,
She said, I'm back from yesterday.
yeah, but I'll be back next month. Thank you so much for hosting
Okay.
this space. This is so much fun.
Of course. Enjoy your
Bye,
conference.
y'all. All
Bye.
right. Bye bye.
Um, did anyone else have anything else they wanted to touch on about the Seven Daughters of Dupree or any book recs or anything else for today? Find. Oh, let me grab next month's book so I can show y'all. Okay. Well, if nobody has nothing else, just gonna go ahead and remind you that next month we're reading Where the Wildflowers Grow, and it's really cute. It has like flowers on the edges, which I think is adorable. Um, and if you haven't read anything by this author, I've only read one other book of hers, and it's another heavy book. I know it's cute and pretty, but it is another heavy book, and she touches on topics that are like how is this possible? Like it's almost kind of crazy, but it's always well written and I really enjoy what she puts out. Would y'all be interested in me trying to see if she could join us next month for a discussion? Or do you want to wait and like read it a little bit and decide? Because I don't mind reaching out to see if she could join. I do want to read it a little bit. Because she seems nice. Oh, Jada, I'm just gonna read you a question asking will we have the author next month. But yeah, I can't. I'm gonna ask her to see if she can join us if she's available. I do not mind asking at all. Um, but if we don't have anything else to share, I'm gonna let everybody enjoy the rest of their evening and not hold y'all hostage and talk about more books. But thank you so much for joining and reading with us, Seven Daughters of Dupree. Um, and enjoy the rest of your night. Bye.